The Record Store Day Black Friday 2019 list has finally come out. I have a lot of thoughts on it. Stick around to find out what my picks are from the list and some of the thoughts I have about Record Store Day in general. So usually the Record Store Day Black Friday list isn't as exciting as the Record Store Day list in April. There's always some interesting things on there, but in general, it's a little watered down compared to the big event. Normally though, in the past, Record Store Day Black Friday has a big ticket item, at least one, and gets me out in the middle of the night to line up like I usually do. However, this year, I feel like there's not anything on the list that's going to drag me out of bed to wait in line overnight and buy some records in a half-awake stupor like I do bi-yearly. I still do want to support the local record store, so I will go on Black Friday and check it out. Maybe not as early as usual, probably just before it opens. This year is going to be a bit of an experiment, and I'll share the results with the channel. Long story short, I've noticed a trend in Record Store Day, especially last year, where a lot of the titles are available even day of for a very slight markup. I'm saying, if you don't want to wait 10 hours in line, you might be able to get it for $10 or $15 above MSRP. That seems kind of worth it to me. That's not to say that waiting in line isn't fun. I always meet a lot of interesting people, but sometimes, especially as I get older, waiting 12 hours in line is not the most fun way to spend a night, especially in the cold. And if not same day, almost every single release is available roughly at MSRP on Discogs or eBay within a couple weeks of the event. I think this is due to a few reasons. The first reason being, there's not really a limited release anymore that gets everyone excited. Remember the Cake box set? Well, that still held value. However, there hasn't been a Cake box set level release since then. Because of these larger numbers of records that are coming out, flippers are buying a ton of them and they can't unload them at the right value that they want, so they'll end up putting it up for a couple bucks more than what they paid just to recoup their costs. The aftermarket for Record Store Day stuff has dwindled significantly since the first time I started doing Record Store Day, and because of that, lining up might not be a necessity anymore. This year, I'm going to go and see what I can get day of when the store opens, but I'm also going to try to get some of the stuff online after the fact if my store ran out or didn't get any. I'll let you guys know what happens. But until then, there are some cool things on the list, and if you're looking for recommendations from the list, I'm going to tell you some things that I think you should get. So let's start with the first category, Record Store Day exclusives. As you guys know, these are records that are coming out specifically on Record Store Day, are not going to be out again in any other fashion moving forward, so if they sell out, they sell out. These are the ones that you usually want to keep your eye on, and this is the part of the list I look very closely at, because the other ones you may not get because they're regional, or they will come out in another fashion later down the road. This year though, there's only two that caught my eye from the exclusive list. The first one is a big one for me. It's Pearl Jam's MTV Unplugged. This was a legendary performance they did in 1992, right on the heels of 10. Features a lot of the great songs from that album and even a couple B-sides. It has never been on vinyl to this point. I do have a bootleg, it sounds okay. I would love to replace it with an official recording, especially if they were able to get some tapes from that session. I'm not exactly sure what the source is, but what's shocking to me is the pressing number. This is not one you're going to have to line up for. This is one that you're going to be seeing online in record stores for months, if not years to come. They're pressing 13,000 copies of this. Yeah, 13,000 copies. This is one of the highest pressing numbers I have ever seen in record collecting. I don't know if this is considered a limited release with that kind of number. I feel like if you buy this at face value, it's going to be $10, $15 cheaper if you wait a couple weeks. Needless to say, I'm excited everyone's gonna have a chance to get this record, but I wouldn't really worry about trying to find it. The exclusive that's a little harder to find is the Wrens Silver. The Wrens are an awesome lo-fi emo rock band. I really like their stuff. I recently tracked down their album The Meadowlands, which is very hard to find. Their album Sea Caucus is even harder to find, sometimes going for $300-$400. And Silver, their first album, is getting its first ever vinyl pressing. 1,500 copies of this. Craft Recordings is pressing this, and they've been doing a lot of great reissues lately, so I feel like the sound quality is going to be on point. But that's not a lot of copies worldwide. I hope that I can find one because the Wrens are a great band if you're into lo-fi stuff. And that's it for exclusives, but let's move on to regional. So these might not be in your area depending on where you live. I've usually had pretty good luck finding regional stuff in the past, but your mileage may vary. Julia Kent's Green and Gray is going to vinyl for the first time on 2 discs, green and gray, obviously. It comes with an EP that came out right before the album and a couple extra tracks from the Green and Gray sessions. She is a really talented cellist who does looping techniques and mixes it with field recordings to make some really beautiful music that's very ethereal and ambient and haunting. I like her stuff a lot, and this has never been on vinyl before, so I'm definitely going to try to track it down. 400 copies worldwide. this one might prove to be a little difficult. And then there's a bunch of first releases. So these aren't as exciting because sometimes they'll get a repress in a couple months or a year. Sometimes they'll get the exact same pressing without the special color or bell or whistle, whatever is coming out on Record Store Day Black Friday. These are definitely ones that I'm going to try to get, but if I don't get them, I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. I'll probably find them when they come out in a larger variant down the road. The first one is Fish's Story of the Ghost. So I like Fish. I'm not a big Fish fanatic. I've known some people. I've lived with some people who are big Fish fanatics. For me, I enjoy their music every now and then. I know that they live predominantly through their live recordings, and there are plenty of live Fish albums to go around, but some of their studio albums are definitely worth your time as well. Last year we got Billy Breathes for the first time, which is probably the best Fish studio album in my opinion. The Story of the Ghost is probably my second favorite of theirs. Excellent tracks. I think this is definitely representing what they can do in the studio, and it's been on vinyl, but it's out of print and goes for a lot of money. So it's really cool that it's getting a nice pressing of 8,000 copies, foil numbered on the back for Record Store Day. I'm sure there's going to be a non-foil numbered down the road. I'm going to try to grab it if I see it though. This one doesn't really appeal to me, but I know this is going to be a hot ticket for a lot of people. If you're a Cardi B fan, her first mixtape is coming to vinyl for the first time. Gangster Bitch Music Volume 1, 2,000 copies. If you're a Cardi B fan, you should probably grab it. And speaking of ladies that are definitely hot and on everyone's tongues right now, Lizzo is coming out with the Coconut Oil EP, one of her first ever releases, obviously never been on vinyl. If you don't know Lizzo right now, she is killing the pop game. I definitely advise you checking out her latest album, especially the single Juice, which it gets stuck in my head constantly, for good reason. This is an EP I'm not super familiar with, but I think Lizzo stans are going to try to grab it as fast as they can. But at 5,500 copies, there should be enough to go around. Everyone's favorite metal villain, well, second favorite metal villain, I guess. MF Doom is technically everyone's favorite. Anyway, I'm talking about Czarface. Czarface is putting out The Odds Czar Against Us. Very clever name. A brand new 12-track album. I'm always in for new Czarface. I'll probably grab it if I see it. I think it's going to be on some limited color, but the site wasn't too specific. 2,200 copies. Shouldn't be too hard. Sugar Ray's 1459 is coming to vinyl for the first time since it came out. It's been long out of print. This is the album that has two of their biggest hits, Someday and Every Morning. Both songs that if you grew up in the 90s, you definitely know very well. This would be a nostalgia buy if I grab it, but it's on red vinyl, and I sometimes want to go back to those days, so Sugar Ray may get a buy. I never know if it's Eden or Edon. I think it's Eden. Eden's Beauty and the Beat is getting a reissue. It's not that hard to find an original copy if you want to spend maybe 40, 50 bucks, usually from overseas, unfortunately. This time you can get it a lot more easily if you grab it on Record Store Day Black Friday. Beauty and the Beat is a psychedelic underground hip-hop masterpiece. If you don't know this record, you should definitely check it out. It appeals to fans of mainstream hip-hop and non-mainstream alike. Has a lot of cred, but also is very accessible. I'm really excited this is coming back to vinyl. 1,500 copies, not that limited, but you might have to try to look for it if you don't see it right away. My favorite band, The National, is putting out a release for Record Store Day Black Friday, but unfortunately it is not a record. I don't know why they didn't do this for Cassette Store Day. It's a bit of a tease, but it's The National, and I'll probably grab it. It's a 3-cassette box showcasing some of their tracks from the run they did at the Greek Theater in Berkeley last year. Lots of great stuff coming from those shows on that tour. I think they're taking some of the best songs and putting them on there, and the recording technique they use is apparently this special way to make it sound really magical and juicy. Juicy being their word. I'm gonna grab it. I have a cassette player. I'll listen to some National on cassette. Why not? 1,000 copies of this. National fans are pretty rabid. This might go fast, but it's a cassette, so you never know. And finally, 3,000 copies of Nas's Stillmatic. Stillmatic is one of Nas's records that I believe is incredibly underrated. Lots of hits on there. I personally believe this might be Nas's best release, and it hasn't been on vinyl since it came out. So it's kind of hard to find. It's being remastered and put on silver vinyl. So I'm probably going to upgrade my slightly beat up copy because I love this record front to back. It is definitely a top 20 hip hop album of all time for me, I'd say. That's pretty much it. The rest of the list is a bunch of stuff I personally don't really care about. You got a weird Insane Clown Posse release, a twisted 7-inch, a Christmas twisted 7-inch. Who wants this stuff? But you know what? I hope that you guys have some stuff on the list that maybe you want. This is your chance to clue me in. Drop a comment with what you're excited for on the Record Store Day list. Maybe there's something I'm missing, and I'd love to not miss out on it. So leave a comment, let me know what you think of the list this year. Like I said, it's a little disappointing, but there is some good stuff there if you dig through the list like I did. Alright guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to Too Many Records, and I'll see you guys with more content soon.